Yo, 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 what is up, guys? We are back with our next lore roundtable discussion, session number 5. So to skip session 4, due to poor quality, I want to produce the best content. So this is our next episode. This one's actually going to be a two-parter. It was a super long episode, almost 2 hours. So we're going to break it up into 45 minute blocks. So I hope you guys really enjoy this one. This one was really fun. Got a lot of content packed into it. So just make sure that you hit the like on the video, share it with a friend, and make sure you hit that follow button, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Assassin is out. Started. So welcome everybody to session number 5 of Lore Roundtable Discussions. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Osiris, the man, the myth, the legend. And so we'll just start it off. I'm not real familiar 100% with his origin. So if you want to start off, Frozen, kind of talking about kind of like what his introduction into this whole story is.
Well, it's hard to point to one exact point of his origin because we don't know when a lot of this stuff took place. What we do know is that he came to the last city before it was built, right when it was still just being built. He's one of the oldest guardians that we know of in the lore. Him and Drifter are some of the older guardians.
Yo, what's up, brother?
Those
How we doing?
literally and figuratively. But
so with just kind of go to the origin. He was told to go to the city by Fellwinter. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So he went, and what was the purpose of him going to the lost city? Do we know?
Searching answers around the Traveler, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Curious about the Traveler?
It's beautiful. I agree.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Most what Osiris does is research into stuff like the Light, the Traveler, and in his late years, the Vex.
Right.
Those are the big things Osiris' research.
Right. So and you're just kind of talking about the Vex. He predicted the coming of Oryx, right? That was one of the things that he discovered in his research, like before we knew or whatever, before it was documented or whatever you want to say. He was like just reading what I read this evening or whatever. He was a big advocate of that avenue, I guess, and not really what I want to say at all, but sounds good.
Well, yeah, we also left out something big that I think is going to kind of connect more to now, so it's important to mention it in the past. He also had, in some words, a fascination with the darkness.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Studied the darkness and also openly questioned the motives of the Traveler, which is another thing I think it's important to mention now.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Osiris and his studies are mainly in everything paracausal / old. So the Traveler, the Darkness, the Vex. Though not necessarily the Hive, he did have communications with Eris on the Hive. And all that.
Right. And he I know he was mentored early on by the speaker once that he was established, right?
Yes. And he and Saint were both mentored by the speaker. That is true. However, him and the speaker do not see eye to eye on a lot of things.
The biggest one is the Fallen, right? So he disagreed with the focus on the Fallen, feeling that they were too closely connected. They were more like us, and on Earth or whatever, because they were left by the Traveler, so on and so forth, and needed to focus more on the Vex and the Taken and the darkness, so to speak. It was what led to his demise in the last city.
Well, not kind of. Osiris and his arguments with the speaker were definitely one of the big factors of his demise or exile from the city. However, the big part about it is not that he had these thoughts, but the writings he made and the cult that sort of formed around those writings.
Right.
The cult of Osiris.
Right. And he didn't necessarily condone the cult, but he also didn't do anything to dissuade them, so to speak, right? So he wasn't like for it, he wasn't against it either at the same time. He was just gonna let it happen. Let it play out how you let it play out, so to speak. And his I can't remember. I mean, it was how he questioned the speaker and the traveler is pretty much why he was exiled, and some of what he was like researching into the Vex as well, right? It was what led to his.
It's a mix of a lot of things. Like you were talking about the way he talked about the traveler and the speaker, his research onto the Vex, and like you were saying before, how he saw the Fallen as less of an enemy than something like the Vex. However, another big-ish reason he was exiled was his sort of absentness from his Vanguard duties. Ikora, who was a student of his, filled in for most of his Vanguard duties while he was doing his research. So, it's sort of like his exile was both a part of his research itself and its interference with his job of Vanguard.
Right. And he like I was reading, like he didn't really want the role, but it wasn't really an option for him not to take it when he was over the Vanguard or whatever. Because like Saint relinquished that role and gave it to him. Is that right?
Yeah, Saint relinquished the role of leader of the Vanguard to Osiris. That is, well, no. Saint relinquished its role after Osiris had already been exiled. And all that. After he had left the city and was in the forest. Or on Mercury investigating the Vex.
Okay.
He got the Vanguard position due to his mentorship under the speaker and his connections with the speaker. But one thing we don't really know much about is how the Vanguard was fully decided upon. How the new members were chosen for Vanguard.
Right.
We do know, at least for Zavala and Ikora, that Ikora worked with Osiris, and Zavala was also a mentor of this speaker. But outside of that, we don't know how Osiris or Saint were chosen to be Vanguard.
Okay.
So moving forward, I guess, since we have to. Osiris used the Vex network to see multiple versions of the future, and his sundial is curious because it looks like it wasn't working for him, and then Scions tried to use it, and then somehow it worked for us. That's a little cloudy to me.
Well, I remember the season of Dawn War. The thing about the sundial and all that is, the purpose of its construction was for Osiris to try to locate Saint in the Infinite. try to find where he was. The big reason why he abandoned that project is because it seemed, well, hopeless, was how vast the Vex network was. The Sundial was something that he abandoned and was rediscovered by Cabal Scions. When they were interfering with the past, that's when he came to the Guardians to both A, stop the Scions, and B, maybe finish his mission. The purpose of the Sundial.
Yeah, which at this point we know we did.
Yeah.
We rescued Saint. We found we found a point in time where Saint was not dead yet and picked him out of it, basically, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. The thing about the whole Saint 14 storyline, if we are getting into the Season of Dawn stuff, is that it is, as his weapon is called, a perfect paradox.
Oh, now we're getting into
Because-
Saint, man. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was just excited because we were talking about Saint.
But the main thing about it is that it was a perfect paradox.
Yep.
Because when we saved Saint from what killed him the original time, and if you remember in the lore, it said Saint talked about a great hero. In Season of Dawn, we found out that great hero who saved him was our guardian. However, the way that we saved him was we killed the Vexmine that trapped him and contained his light the first time. So he both died and didn't die at the same time.
What the reason why it's a perfect paradox is amazing to me, right? So look at the shotgun itself and its beginnings. We got it from him from his tomb, and then we reformed it, and then we went back through time, right? And where we first meet him, he's got his bubble popped up. He's being attacked by Vex. He's holding them off, and that's Fallen. You're right. I'm sorry. And then we give him that shotgun. There is no end or beginning of that shotgun. It is just there. That's what I love about that storyline, because or all the lore behind that, because this is a cycle. There's no beginning to it. We find it after he's had it and he's died fighting the Vex in the Infinite Forest. We take it, we rebuild it, and then we give it back to him, essentially, which I think is really cool.
Definitely. But to try to get back on topic with
So we got off of
Sundial. The whole purpose of the Sundial was to find Saint, which we did complete while also stopping Cabal. However, going to Osiris's research in the Infinite Forest and all that.
Yeah, dude. I need to download. I need to buy the game. I really want to play it, but
all the research in the Infinite Forest led to there being.
I haven't looked anything at it, so
there was one solution, one ending at that point. A world basically covered in darkness, or Mercury, the lighthouse, covered in darkness. Which, when we killed Panoptes, it did change. However, what's interesting is I don't think we actually ever changed that timeline, considering Mercury has been wiped out by the darkness. But what is interesting is all of the stuff Osiris has researched.
Yeah, I need to play it.
And the darkness, and even the light. All of it has definitely played a role in the future, and all that we see about what he's discovered in the past has come true in some way.
Right. Is some of the things he saw are happening now, or happened over the last couple seasons? Season of the Hunt specifically, probably, but even more did he see some of the other stuff happening?
Well, one thing that is ambiguous is we don't know everything that he has seen. Because
Right.
in one of the lore books it's described that he sees just nothing. Whiteness during Season of Dawn. Where once he entered the Infinite Forest there's just nothing there. However, if I remember correctly, he even confronted Rasputin about it, because him and Rasputin, those which have knowledge about the darkness and stuff of that nature that we do not know. Even in the lore books, even throughout anything, we don't know much about what he saw.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that specific confrontation because my understanding of it is that Osiris went to Rasputin and asked him straight out if he would support the light or the darkness. And if I remember the lore card right, he asked the question and the doors close.
They kept saying it was like, which side are you on, old man? That's what he said to Rasputin.
Right,
Coming
and
off
then the doors
memory
shut.
alone. Yes.
Right, we don't know the answer there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know much about what he's seen. And even though there is a lot of lore on Osiris, a lot of his research and a lot of what may help us in the future, we honestly don't know. Because from everything from when we first meet him in Curse of Osiris, the Season of Dawn, to like Season of the Hunt, even though that was so soon, we do see that he was doing a lot of research. He was looking into the darkness. And he's even entered a pyramid at one point. Which, if you remember in Arrival, the tree of silver wings that we find on Io. It has been theorized, and though we haven't gotten explicit confirmation, it has been very much implied that that tree was planted from a seed that Osiris found in one of the pyramids. We don't
I
know
can
which
tell you
one.
actually that's in the lore. I was just
Yeah.
reading all of that. So this was a weird one because I was just reading through it. I was actually looking for the Rasputin Osiris transcript, and I found this thing where Osiris goes to Rasputin, and Rasputin tells him to go to the edge of the system to pick up the seed, and he goes out and picks up what they call a husk of metal. And I think if they ever decide to unveil it, they're going to unveil it as it's maybe a piece of a pyramid or something. Um, and he brings that back and he does plant it on Io at the request of Marasov in a weird way. So Marasov tells Brother Vance to tell Osiris to plant the seed. So it's a weird thing. So I don't know what the connection is there with Marasov and the seed that becomes the tree of silver, whatever, silver wings or silver leaves. I don't remember.
Silver wing.
Silver wing. So I don't know what Marasov's connection would be to that, or why she would tell Osiris to plant it. Yeah, I haven't found anything on
There is
that.
nothing on it.
Yeah.
One thing that you will realize when looking into Osiris and all that, Mara, Osiris, Rasputin, Eris even, they all have some knowledge of the darkness that we do not know yet. They have some info on the pyramids, the darkness, the nature of light and dark itself, and even with stuff like the Seed of Silver Wings. We don't know how that ties into Mara or even why Rasputin sent Osiris there. All we do know is that he did receive it and plant it.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna again give credit to Bungie. I think that's on purpose, and I think they're gonna use it as they kind of close out that story they have these avenues to add this knowledge in. It's like, oh yeah, he learned it, back when he was doing his research, and now he's gonna, pass it on to you, kind of thing. I think a lot of that's going to happen. And I think I'm gonna craft a theory tonight. I'm just gonna let you guys. I was talking with Pidge a little bit before. I'm gonna work on a theory. We're kind of adding to it as we go. We're gonna build it. It's fun to kind of craft it as we're going through here. And it's going to be involving Osiris, Rasputin, the Darkness, and the future. That's kind of where I'm going with everything. So we just got to keep adding some meat here. We got to craft this up. So, it's cooking though. It's cooking, and hopefully before the end I can drop some.
Sure. Yeah. We'll come back to that. We'll mark that as one of our closing debates, if you will, because we like to have debates on here. So
Definitely.
So one thing I feel like we kind of touched, and I don't want to go back, but I kind of do a little bit because I think it's kind of a cool thing. The reason that we know of like the Vault of Glass is because of Osiris, right? Like he in his research and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of stuff that I just pulled up, looking through some lore. I think it's really cool. He what he's done for us as guardians and everything else. Yes, he's done some heinous things. He's done some things that shouldn't be, but like the Vault of Glass, he prophesized the coming of Oryx, and then he became too close to the Vex, things of that nature. So going back to the Infinite Force, like what he did, surrounding that is like he was able to split himself and make what are they called?
Projections.
Projections.
Projections, reflections, something like that. Right.
I'm looking for like it basically yes, but I don't think that. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Copies of himself, basically.
Replications of himself through time, through the Infinite Forest, to see all this. Like he didn't spend all that time in himself. He split himself into reflections of himself in different parts of time to see all that he's seen, and we've said it before, we don't know what he's seen. We don't know we don't have a way of knowing because it's not been documented and things like that. I think it's really it speaks to how powerful he is as a character, and as a guardian, to who he is, so to speak.
He's one of the few guardians that we know that has used multiple supers in quick succession.
Right.
Back.
Yeah, Ikora.
Yes, he taught Ikora how to hack supers. Wonderful.
Going back to the Infinite Force and all that, and his projections, we do know that there are some projections that actually went insane.
Welcome back, my good sir.
Due to what they're seeing. And what we don't know is, even outside of the Force, he did a lot of research, a lot of investigations into Rasputin, into the Light, into the pyramids. However, a big issue is everything that we know is that it really cuts off with Beyond Light and the arrival of the pyramid. Because if Osiris was still fully around after the pyramids have arrived, after Europa, we would have known so much more. Especially with stuff like Savathun and her plot with Traveler. Her plot to move to Traveler. Maybe Osiris could have figured out why, but considering he's in a sort of coma of darkness due to Savathun's corruption plus all that, we honestly don't know what he knows about the darkness. What is true? Research it.
And maybe, and it's just a thought, maybe part of the reason why he was oh shit, what the my mind just went blank, why he was possessed by Savathun is because what he learned, and maybe he knew her plot or of it or something to that effect is why he was possessed.
There was some thought that he did that willingly too. That he didn't. How do I put this? That she didn't have to force her way to possess him. That he allowed it. Like he said, "Okay, yes."
No,
it wasn't. It was not the from what I've read. That's not.
You guys say that definitely when I don't think there's an answer on that.
No, I'm not saying that.
Like it definitely wasn't. Like who knows? Who said Osiris didn't say anything?
Well, we don't know exactly. The big thing about it is, what was the weapon? One of the weapons from Splicer makes it seem like he did not actually choose this. I know it was the wolf tone draw bow. The slithering dark is cold against my face. I cannot speak. I cannot breathe. I reach for Skier, but then I remember. I form a fist but feel nothing. I am bound. As I thrash, the images cut fissures through my mind. She has stolen my form, my voice, but someone will see my failure and cast her out. They must. I don't think that would imply that he willingly let Savathun in. Especially that line about about her stealing his form, his voice.
Right, stealing is a big word.
Yeah, she has stolen my form.
Right.
The fact that
I've given her my form. Yeah.
It wasn't given, it was fully stolen.
Well done.
Yeah, I doubt that he would willingly do that. But I feel like the real reason he was chosen to be taken was the time and place. He was in a weakened state in front of Savathun's sister, which she definitely was monitoring Xivu at that time. Especially with everything we know about her and Xivu's complex relationship. However, Osiris was definitely not willing to give Savathun his form. It just was taken.
And then Savathun also would see Osiris as, a great opportunity to get close to
The city.
everything. Really, right?
Yeah.
Ikora, the Vanguard, the city, all of it.
Especially considering the personality Osiris had, as he was a loner. He was not known very well, even by his friends. It was figured that
that's a really good call.
That anything was truly different about him.
That's something I can look into for the future.
That didn't affect him any. He was like, yeah, fine.
And
so that's when everything gets cloudy, because there's a certain point in time when we know it's Osiris, and then there's a point in time when we know it's Savathun.
This is the man we're speaking of.
Osiris.
This is Osiris here.
But we actually know the exact time that happened.
We do, but what I was going to say is we don't know how much of what was going on was maybe necessarily against what Osiris would have wanted anyway. For example, the whole season of the hunt and hunting the High Celebrant and all that kind of stuff, that was Savathun kind of running that show, but maybe Osiris would have supported that?
Yes, but also no. A big thing about this is we honestly don't know. Because when Savathun possessed him, he did not really take any of his mental images. All that she knew was stuff that she studied about him, stuff that she
This is
observed him
Saint
doing.
14 here.
That's what you have to realize. Savathun learned all this about Osiris because of her observations and watching of him. Because someone who planted this, especially after arrivals and the seed of silver wings and all that. If someone who could get a seed like that and who has power like that could definitely be someone of interest to Savathun and the Hive. However,
And define Savathun.
as we saw, her mannerisms and behaviors around some of Osiris's friends definitely shown up there was something off about it.
That's
Because
Savathun.
especially the dialogue in
You've
Twice.
seen her before
When she
if you
was
watched me play the campaign.
However, Osiris would have done stuff that Savathun did. We don't know if their methods would have been the same. So the same ends, but different means. to do
Right,
it.
right, and that's the whole idea that Savathun did X, Y, Z, and Osiris didn't do it. But I have the question of, would Osiris have done something similar anyway? And like you said, it may have been different methods, but he was more investigating the Hive, it seems, rather than trying to eliminate anything. I think the
Also-
elimination part of it was more Savathun's side of things. Like, Osiris is kind of investigating, seeing what's going on. And when Savathun came in, she's like, yeah, we need to get rid of this.
To even add on to that, the entire seasons of Beyond Light and everything that happened would have played out way different than if Osiris was around and when Savathun was around. First, starting with Chosen and the whole Keitel situation. Osiris, as we can see, definitely, though he wasn't interested in politics, definitely played a role in working with leaders, as we saw with Mara and even with the speaker, though they did have their troubles. So that situation may have played out differently, ending in negotiation instead of conflict. Especially considering the whole conflict was really led out by Saladin and sorts, and then Spicer. Would Spicer have even happened if Savathun did not take control of Osiris? That entire season may not have even happened. Our Alliance of the Fallen may not have even happened if Savathun did not take over Osiris. Which, yeah.
So I have a question in that vein, and I think I might know the answer, but I want to hear it just in case. When it comes to the Guardian, using the darkness, there's mixed feelings on it. We know Zavala seems pretty against it, and others have kind of supported it. I think Osiris may have supported the idea, but what do you guys think?
Well, it's hard to specify on that regard. Because we do know Osiris has experience with all things darkness related, but we don't know if he would have supported the use of stasis or whatnot. Well, honestly, we don't know what his opinions are of stasis. He wasn't around when we got stasis, since the whole season hunt mission happened after the whole stasis endeavor. The whole Osiris being taken and using Sagara happened after that endeavor.
The season of the hunt was after Beyond Light came out.
Yeah, after the events of Beyond Light. So, Osiris was most likely just indifferent on it, instead of having a full-fledged opinion on whether Guardians should or should not use darkness. He probably may share the opinion of somewhere in the wrong hands it would be bad, but in our hands we may be trusted with it.
Do you
Even
think
though
do you think that Osiris would have some similar knowledge to the Exo Stranger in seeing some dark futures?
yeah,
For example,
well,
Eris going bad and turning
no,
disciple or whatever. Like, those
no,
kind of things that the Exo Stranger has seen in
no.
various timelines. Would
This
Osiris have any of that knowledge?
most likely not. Because all of Osiris's knowledge came from the Vex. The one thing the Vex cannot simulate is the concept of light and dark. The Vex simulations are very limited in that regard. While they do have a lot of info on it, would they? And you also have to realize, while the dark futures did happen in one version of it, would it still happen in this version? Since we already see things are way different this time around than they were in that dark future the Exo Stranger talked about. Especially with, well, Savathun using the light instead of her being a being of darkness. Especially with stuff like that, we don't know what has changed and what hasn't. And we also don't know what the Vex truly know. Since the only Vex that we know that had info on this was Kyria. Kyria is probably the only Vex that we know has at least some recollection of previous events, or has some.
This dude is spitting knowledge right now. It's so crazy.
But the Dark Future was something that the Exo Stranger lived. I'm not sure if the Vex simulated anything like it. So, probably not. He probably did not know about that.
Now, next question. This is another fun one. So we're going to go back to the beginning here. Osiris openly questioned, at the formation of the city almost, openly questioned the motives of the traveler. Right? Like, what does the traveler truly want? Does the traveler know what the traveler wants? Do you think it's possible in his questioning of what the traveler's motive, that he may have found the traveler to be a self-serving being trying to protect itself, or get ready to fight the witness? And I'm not saying he would have known the witness, but would Osiris maybe have kind of come to the conclusion that the traveler isn't this omnipotent, wonderful being, but it's really more self-serving than that, and not here to protect the city, but more use the Guardians to protect itself in a way?
This goes into the whole purpose of the light and dark, of the traveler's motive, so to speak. Which we do know from the Shadowkeep lore, though that was told from a somewhat biased narrator in the form of the Winnower. We do know that the whole bet that the Gardener and Winnower, the light and dark, as we know it, had was that the light imagined that if given the chance, a group of civilization will create a city ringed in spears. A place of peace that is also, or basically have a time of peace. So the big thing about the Traveler is, while yes, it did run from the darkness, we don't know what its motivations are. We do know that it isn't fully against humanity. We do know that it's not fully serving itself. Well, it kind of is, kind of isn't. It's serving itself while also helping humanity in some way. Helping them rebuild from the issues of the darkness.
Do you feel like helping humanity, helping the last city, however you want to put that, don't you feel like that's kind of almost an unintended consequence? Like, I don't think the Traveler cares
Here's-
whether or not there's a city. I think the Traveler cares that it has guardians ready to fight
No,
the Witness. I
no.
think
Here's
the
the thing.
Traveler cares that
You,
we have some kind of defense against the Witness.
honestly, if you don't mind me intervening, I think you're misunderstanding the purpose of the Light and Dark Bay. There isn't the Traveler or the Gardener never really had plans to fight the Witness. That was never its goal. Its goal was to prove that
This is the Traveler.
civilizations
It looks like a planet, but it's an actual
Maybe
entity. We don't really know
something
100%
that is
sure
of
what it
peace.
is, like what
Because the whole
it truly
concept of
is.
light
But
and
this is the
dark
Traveler.
that we know about is the Witness hunting the Traveler.
This is the
We
representation of the
we honestly
light, where
don't
we
know
get our
if
source
the
of
Traveler
power.
wants to take that fight back to the Witness, because we do know that in all other forms of it, every other status, it ran from the darkness, never staying to fight. Not when
But
it had
that's
only,
exactly my point. Yeah, exactly
but
right.
uh,
I don't think
no,
he wants to fight the Witness at all. And I think
but
he knows, or it knows, that the Witness's goal is to, like you said, hunt the Traveler, attack the Traveler, whatever it's going to do to the Traveler. I'm not really clear on that.
eradicated.
Right.
The Witness wants to reach the goal of the final shape.
Uh,
Where
Do that.
I
He
will
has to
definitely
destroy the
try
Traveler.
as we're talking about it.
the
And
only way to reach a goal like that is to have to where only one thing survives, to where only one entity remains. This
and
is the first time that we truly know
this is the Witness here.
well, we don't know everything about it, but we do know that the whole purpose of this flower game was
These are the pyramid shifts behind.
to reach final shape is a state of nothing, where the only thing that does exist
You're
is
fine, my
that
guy.
strong enough to be the only thing to exist. So, in that regard, I don't think the Witness really would leave the Traveler be, especially after all the running and chasing and all that. And you bring up a good point. The purpose of the Guardian, is it to A, defend the Traveler, or B, be a sort of a last stand for the Traveler? Because while the Traveler may definitely have some motivations for itself, it also doesn't seem to be truly only self-serving. Because what the Traveler, we don't know exactly what it wants. But we don't know, why the Guardians don't have memories or any of that. Well, the whole point of the Traveler and the whole point of this argument that the Traveler is only self-serving cannot exactly be true after it made the Guardians. The Guardians themselves, if the Traveler was truly self-serving, it would have kept running, kept fleeing, as it had for the Fallen, as it had for, we don't know how many races, but countless others have had experiences with the Traveler. It would have just kept fleeing. For it to stop and create the Guardians proves that it may have some interest in humanity.
All right, that should be alive for a while.
Or not it's self-serving or not, we honestly cannot know. As I went on a huge rant with almost no furthering.
Yeah, no. Get in there, guys.
So real quick, to kind of piggyback a little bit or counter a little bit, the Traveler's somewhat self-serving. I mean, it may not be fully, but I mean, if we look at the resurrection of Savathun, and resurrecting her as a guardian, what purpose did that serve humanity? It didn't serve anything. It served the purpose for the Traveler itself. So I'm not saying I'm not saying picking either side here. I'm just kind of like just adding some food for thought there.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
think we.
exactly right. I only say the Traveler is self-serving based on what I've seen. And I would say you mentioned why didn't the Traveler run? I don't know if the Traveler could run anymore. I think the Black Fleet, what the Witness did was box the Traveler in. It's not like the Black Fleet only came from one side of the system. Black Fleet is all around the system.
So the
Right.
Black Fleet is
So this
the
may be the
Witnesses'
Traveler's last
pyramid
stand,
ships.
not by
So
choosing.
surrounded it is what we're talking about. And I think it even.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say what'd you have to add is what I was gonna say there. So
Bringing back to your original question of, kind of what does Osiris think about this? I noticed something pretty interesting when I was reading. What lore card is it? It's Moss to a Flame. It was from Dawn, and it's about Osiris when he is in the Dark Ages. I would venture, based on this, to assume that Osiris assumes that the Traveler is self-serving, because in this lore book he has an encounter with a warlord, and then he kills the warlord, and then he and Sagira have a conversation with his ghost, and the ghost is like, I think, let me look. I think it's Sagira asks, what, basically the question gets brought up, why did they res said warlord? And I think it's Sagira says they just needed a fighter,
Mhm.
And then Osiris goes on to monologue about how light could be corrupted, because the ghosts didn't think about who they were resing. At least at the start, and I don't know, because I didn't read as it gets further into Osiris's his experience, what he thinks then. But I think that at the very least at the start, he was very, the Traveler is self-serving, and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on what he was thinking at the start. I don't know. I just thought that was worth bringing up.
No, yeah,
You know.
I was just reading that with you, so that was a cool one. And he openly questions in that. He sees what he says are flaws in the light,
Mhm.
and says that the light can be beaten, corrupted. Yeah. In a funny way, that's kind of where we are now, right?
Could you be more specific on that? On what you mean by that, Musplay?
So the idea that there's the light with the darkness, the idea that there's the light but there's flaws in it, that kind of thing. Isn't that kind of the Guardian now?
I don't know if that's what he's talking about. I think
Oh, I know.
I think Osiris's point of view, at least in this, is light isn't inherently good, which I think is where we are now in the story, right? Traveler, not good.
Well,
Savathun.
Yes.
Right, not good nor bad. Yeah, I get you.
Well, yeah. We do know
Go ahead.
from multiple experiences that both light and dark are not truly good and bad. That I think we've known that fully since Arrivals and the Prophecy Dungeon, what the Nine have told us.
Right.
But that is not really a new revelation.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a new revelation. I'm just saying that was Osiris's headspace.
Right.
That's what he was. Osiris wasn't. Light is this good, inherently good thing.
Right. He was of the same mind pretty much from the beginning that it essentially through his it's a tool to use essentially.
Yeah.
Not good, not bad. It's just a thing. It is what it is, so to speak.